Good afternoon. Welcome to Wednesday. Go
Good
ahead,
afternoon.
Mike. Yeah.
Mike Moss, Public Services Director. We'd like to start off with the executive session for 15 minutes for contract negotiations.
Okay. So we will go back, contract negotiations, 15 minutes in executive session. Okay.
The board is extending the executive session for a period of 10 minutes until 1:57 p.m.
Okay. Back from executive session, no decisions rendered. We'll just head down the rest of your.
Thank you. Number one, transfer station update. Every time I talk positive about the transfer station, it goes sideways.
Ruh-roh.
Well, last week we were there a couple days along with other staff, but mainly in the mornings. It was 7:30 to 9:30. We didn't spend the whole time there, but part of the time. And I was actually there yesterday for 45 minutes. It was average like 9 minutes per commercial trailer. It's like, great, things are awesome. Kelly forwarded a phone call she had yesterday and to the commissioner's office. And I called the gentleman back. He waited an hour yesterday. He showed up at 10:30 and didn't get dumped till 11:30. But it was after the commercial window in the morning where you should go really fast. So I actually sat over there this morning for an hour, and there's a trailer that came in the same time I did, and he got dumped the same time I was leaving, so he was there a full hour. So if you're not there in the great 7:30 to 9:30 window, you are going to wait additional time. So we still have some bugs to work out with them over there. To me, it looked like they have one excavator to clear both ends of the transfer station. So they had an excavator working on the packer end, their waste control trucks, and it piled up really heavily on the south end. And so once that excavator came down, cleared space, they were able to get some trailers in, but then the excavator moved north and it held up again. So it just took a while. So we'll talk to them about logistics and possibly having a second excavator or a mini or something to help push debris on that south end to keep those trailers rolling through there. So still working on it, but once again, a waste control issue that we're trying to resolve with them. So.
Anything else to do with the Tootle site?
Yeah, we had a chance to visit that, and it's certainly an opportunity for us to take trailers up there. We're hoping that the changes we made down there would force us to do something different at Tootle, and that's why we were pretty excited last week when we had the wait times as low as they were. If they continue at the pace of hour plus, we'll have to revisit the opportunity of opening up the Tootle transfer station, or Tootle drop box weekly or daily for commercial trailers. So give us another week or two to see where we're at before we make that move.
Okay. Good to go.
Do you want to pass this out? So the next item that we have to discuss is a mass notification incident response for Public Works. It's been a while, but I had mentioned to the board quite a few months back that I was working on an incident response and a notification system for members of the public and also our department. And so I just handed you guys some documents, light reading as always. But the top one just kind of has a little bit of our current state and how we do things, and then what I would like us to look like from a communication standpoint with the public. Last year, I started kind of documenting and writing things down, events that we could have had better notification with the public on, how we could have notified people on certain areas if their water line was broke or if their road was shut down. I think we do a pretty good job as a public works agency and countywide, really, when we know something's coming, like a large construction project or overlay. We're really good about doing press releases and website updates. It's really the incidents as they happen that are critical that we don't have advance notice, which is a lot of our weather events. The only way to really tell people what's going on is through social media, which is great, except for not everyone, believe it or not, is on social media, or not everyone is on Facebook. Or if they don't check their social media for a few hours, they may not be aware. So what we started to do is look at different notification systems, and this started almost, I guess, probably about 2 years ago. Myself, DEM, IT, I think Kelly was on a couple of the demos. We did a lot of demonstrations, and I actually recently secured 3 bids. And then the one company that I would like to talk about is Doppler, and they were the lowest bid with what we are looking for. And so that's the one I'd like to look at. And their bid came in at about $30,000 per year. What they offer and what I want to talk about, I don't want to take up too much of your time, would be, advanced event notice. So when we do know ahead of time, we can do all the things we normally do, but then we can also let people know via email, text message, or if we wanted to, or if they opt into it, phone call. And then we would also be able to do that with, an incident type of event or an on-demand as it happens. The great thing is, of course, the text messaging. Maybe everybody doesn't have social media, but most all have cell phones. And then they'd be able to receive text messages, but also they can send us information. And so during events, what I've found in the last decade is that people on the ground, in their yards or whatever, have the best and most up-to-date information as far as images go. And so they're able to actually text us images of what's going on, like, here's my driveway, my power is out. And we can not only receive those, obviously, but we can also hold those as records for our project management and events and response. So that's one really awesome thing that I'm pretty excited about that. Another item is we don't currently have the ability as a public works staff, obviously, to do mass notification, but DEM does. They use Flash Alert, and unfortunately for us and them, you have to pay by text. And so it's an added cost if we ever utilize DEM to provide this notification. It costs them money, we would reimburse them. So it is a little bit of a hardship. So really, I don't think I've never made the request for DEM to send out a mass notification on our behalf for those reasons. And usually if it's critical enough, they will do it themselves. So this would give us the ability to do it in-house and notify people who want to be notified, right? DEMs will go out through the IPAWS oftentimes, which is the FEMA federal way of doing it. It has to meet certain criteria. Ours wouldn't necessarily have to meet that because they'd be opting into that information. Another item that I think is really exciting is it can use geolocation, which was the only firm, Doppler, that we found that could do this. If Commissioner Rader lives on a certain road and we're shutting that road down and he's opted in, we can use the geolocation just to notify anybody on that road who has given us permission.
Do we have a system similar to that through DEM? Because when that fire was at Coloma Chemical, I got a text.
Yes,
said I could do it.
that's Flash Alert. Yep, that's Flash Alert, and they can do those with doing like a reverse 911 if they meet certain federal criteria. So interestingly enough, you can't just text people without their consent unless it qualifies under FEMA's guidelines. So we're not super well equipped and trained like DEM is to do that and to walk that fine line of what is or isn't. They are still our main contact for something of that magnitude, like a fire near home, stuff like that. They'd still be the go-to. Ours would be mainly water, sewer, maintenance, road closures, and weather events and transportation hiccups. I won't go through every single one, but just another one that I wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of is this would actually take place of our dispatch. We currently use one in town and we use them for our dispatch. And what they do is somebody has a tree on the road, they call, and that routes to a supervisor. There's not a lot of triage in that. It's, some people, what we would consider a branch, they call a tree. Or, my whole driveway is washed out. Maybe it's a pothole. So it offers the opportunity to triage these. Doppler will take these calls. They are people, not computers, and they are based out of America. So it's not like we're sending these off to, somewhere else and we get these calls and maybe we can't make sense of what they're saying. But this is something that is, I think they're based in Georgia. So but it's funny, but it's not, because we have had that with other companies that we heard really negative reviews about because of that. People don't like that because they can't really articulate what they're trying to say. And the other item is safety.
Well, they're from Georgia down south.
We might have similar issues. I don't know. Yeah, being from Longview, we'll probably understand them easier. Safety is the last one I wanted to go over. Right now, our safety, we do a 2-person call out. That's our safety program because we're not just going to send one person out to respond in the middle of the night, in the middle of the night with potential weather issues that could harm them. And so we send them out in groups of 2s. And then when they're done with the job, they pretty much either call or text their supervisor, and then they're done. Doppler would allow us to not only kind of have a clock in and clock out feature with them, it also allow us to report it and also track it. We have certain contractual obligations that requires us to monitor and provide overtime equally by the year per shop. And so the supervisors are responsible for tracking that. So if we called the 3 of you, you didn't respond, Commissioner Rader, Commissioner Farrell responded but said no, and Commissioner Dahl came in, they would actually have to track each and every one of those instances by phone call. And that's a lot of work per call in the winter time, and there's a lot of room for error in tracking. And so we would have the ability to not have to do that anymore, and they would do that for us, included in this cost. So that was a lot. I went down some rabbit holes. It's really important to me. I think it's super important from us as a public works agency to be able to get this information out to people at the time it's happening, and then also the ability to get information back from them. So I will be bringing this to the board on a Monday, not next Monday, but in the future. I just wanted to make sure you guys had the information ahead of time to review, and then if you had questions, we can do that on a Monday as well.
So Flash Alert is a reverse 911.
It's also not just a river, yes, but it's also a mass notification program, and we actually demoed that as well, that service.
And just geofencing?
I don't recall, I don't know that they did geofencing on that one. I think it's all on demand. So when DEM determines that, then they can use GIS or geofencing to make sure, like in your example, the chemical fire, they would have had to use some kind of GIS to, and I don't know if that's DEM going in there and saying, here's the area, call these numbers, or if that's actually Flash Alert doing that for them. I'm not quite sure. I don't remember that from our demo.
Well, I guess the reason I'm asking is if I'm in Portland and my
Mhm.
house is on fire, well, not my house, the
Mhm.
whole neighborhood's on fire and they're evacuating,
Would you know?
I'm gonna get it from reverse, but the other side of this, Doppler is a volunteer sign-on only, right?
Yeah, you're opting in, correct?
If I don't opt in, then Doppler isn't gonna work for me.
Right, if you don't, unless it's one of those qualifying IPAWs. So using your example, if you had a fire near your home, it wouldn't matter if you were opted in or not. You would still get that reverse 911 feature because it's already established. The only way that so if you were opted out of Doppler, correct, you wouldn't know. We'd still use the same information like a Facebook update or, you know what I mean? It would be the same as it is now. You wouldn't have that advantage if it didn't qualify as an emergency event.
So if I am signed up for Doppler, am I gonna get notified twice, one from each agency?
Depending on the incident, you could. Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And does it matter if you have a landline or if you have cell phone?
Nope.
Because I know the one with the DEM, if you don't have a landline, don't you have to opt in to get your cell phone in?
It could be, and
Yeah.
does anybody,
okay.
yeah, so it's, okay. Yeah, and I'm not, with Doppler, because you're volunteering what line and what information you want, it's by your choice. With DEMs, I'm not 100% sure how the IPAWS works.
Yeah, I think it is. If you have a landline, you have to opt into your cell phone number.
Okay. And I know Flash Alert too, you have to like sign up. I know with the schools use Flash Alert. You have to sign up every year and re-sign up and pretty much tell them you're still interested in receiving alerts. So we would internally have to determine how often we wanted to do that. But and before I'm done, I think what makes us a little bit different, aside from the mass notification, which is the obvious, is it also gives us that dispatch feature. So it's kind of a 2-in-1 product, which is going to benefit us tremendously, dramatically as well. So that's just the last thing. Any more questions?
Well, you said it's $30,000 a year?
Mhm,
It's a
mhm.
flat fee regardless how many times we use it?
Correct, yeah. And some of the services we found were in, I call them blocks. They call them something else, but essentially you have 100,000 blocks, which is like 100,000 calls or text messages. So that's the other thing that DEM is working with, is at least when I talked to them about a year or two ago, they had purchased it in blocks. So we try not to ask them to use it because we know they're paying by text message, by phone call. And so this service isn't by block, it's unlimited. It's not based upon how many texts or calls we send, it's just part of our service.
Okay.
And then I had sent just some pictures. Oh, you dropped that, just so you know. Just a Hall of Justice update. I've been doing my weekly ones, but these ones I have pictures for. So they had showed us this the other day, and Kelly and I were like, hey, I think our board would like to see these. So just high level, we have 2 department moves done. DEM and the clerk's office. Clerk's office moved yesterday, and that was a good move. I stopped by there and talked to them a couple times. Things seem to be going well. This week, we're looking at our Superior Court admin move. That's on Friday, so just a heads up there. Moving forward, one of our, well, probably our largest, most diverse department is going to be the Sheriff's Office with how many divisions they have, and so that will be our next large move, and so we'll be working on that probably for a little bit up until the moves, the next month or so, and identifying all the different spaces they have to go. Just project status, switchgear install, you guys are all well aware of that. That was Labor Day weekend. Our roof units are installed. If you got my crane pick email that was set up a couple weekends in a row, that was what they were doing. Our electrical upgrades are continuing, so we're continuing to move through and update smaller panels with conduit, new conduit runs, and then also a lot of our ceilings are coming down in the basement. This first picture of the switchgear is when the wall was in place, the demo of the wall, and then the back of the switchgear install, and then new pictures of what it looks like now on that 3rd page.
So Anna, just so you're aware, I tried to open the email
Mhm.
to show these
Mhm.
and I had to get approval and my approval was denied to view the.
That's from yeah, I think that's from Millig, and it was at Google. Yeah, I can, I'll work on that. I'll just do yours on our Teams, and then you don't have to worry about that. Moving on, this is a DEM basement area. You can see all the ceiling tiles are out, and you can see all the spaghetti of cables. That's something that we're working with Millig on getting those all organized and tied up and in place.
This is what it looked like when they took the ceiling out. They weren't tied together. They didn't untie anything.
Correct.
This is what it was.
Correct.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
We anticipate, just for the record, or take it off the record, I don't know, that this is going to be pretty status quo for a lot of our ceilings there. Yes,
Okay.
We're guessing a lot of those aren't being utilized over the years, especially with 911 in the
A lot
basement.
of
There was
these
some,
lines.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know IT doesn't have time right now or resources to go through and probably check each of those lines, but at a certain point, it needs to
Yeah.
be done.
Yeah.
Just moving forward, the picture on this next one, this is DEM and dispatch. This is actually a DEM, this is one of those units up top. And then you can see on the right-hand side, that's the old 911 space with all the ceilings down. There was a lot of insulation in there. They assumed that insulation had asbestos in it, which was part of an increased cost, but thankfully there is no asbestos in there. So that's a great thing. That would have been very expensive. After this project's done, we'll likely replace those floor tiles as well. You can see in that picture on the right-hand side. Up to the roof units. This is pretty impressive. What the roof looked like before with the conduit line, it was reminiscent of the spaghetti ceiling tile it was just not organized. It wasn't straight. It was messy looking. All of our new units, they just look great. Whether it's because they're new or they're just so much better, the installs on them look great. On the right picture on the right-hand side, we also have surge protectors installed on all of our heating units, which is actually something I experienced recently as a homeowner. When you lose power and you get power kicked back on, most homeowners don't have surge protectors on their unit, and it fries components like the compressor and other smaller motorized features. So we have all surge protectors on each of our units, which is great for us moving forward in protecting us from malfunctions due to power loss and gain. And I think this just last picture I have is more roof units. You can see more of those surge protectors by each unit. And then also you can see that nice copper, those copper lines that are nice and straight and angled correctly. So,
The kids would say that's a satisfying picture.
I know, like, as long as some people get that, right? Especially if you saw kind of what it looked like before. And that's, unless the board has questions on the HOJ HVAC projects, that's all the pictures and status update I had.
Thank you.
Afternoon, Commissioner Sean Rowe here. Cook Ferry spoils, we've had a contract going out there for removal of those materials that is coming to an end at the end of 2025. We have received conversations with the contractor out there. They'd like to extend that for a year, increase the minimums that we have, and continue that project. We have started seeing those materials leave in a more significant amount since the Port of Longview Rail project has started. They're about halfway through the minimums there. They expect to see that very close by the end of December, but they would like to continue on. They are requesting the minimum increase from 150 to 175, just based on some of the speculations for 2026 and not knowing what the commercial market's going to look like. And we're just wondering if the board would be open to something of that.
Are they taking the Scotch broom with them?
That's yours.
That would sweeten the deal.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know, when they scrape that ground down, it looks really clean, so. You know, our end goal here is to make room for some more dredge spoils in the future, whatever that may look like, as long as we encourage the removal of the spoils and keep it clear.
And whatever they take, it ends up going into our parks and stuff, so, right?
Mhm,
So
Yep. Yeah, it would be a no change on the royalty fee, still the $2.06 per yard. If the
Okay.
board's open to that, we'd start getting that moving forward then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
That's scary.
No, it's not scary. This is
Okay.
more of Susan asked for board direction on how much you want me to dive into the Spirit Lake Tunnel, what you want me, what, if anything, you want me to be providing you information-wise for Mount St. Helens, because Public Works is the historic repository of that and past boards. So when they did the last Mount St. Helens report, that was something that Public Works reviewed and gave comments to the board in order to do letters. So I'm kind of looking for guidance from you, how much you want me to be doing on this, in background information, what you'd like me to provide for you, so that I'm following what you guys want, and the direction you want me to be moving. If there's anything you want me to bring for the next public meeting, that I'm just looking for more of a direction. I have started reading the report. I've made it through the executive summary and dove a little into the background of their two top choices, but I haven't gone any further than that.
Two top choices, speaking of Forest Service,
For the Forest Services,
have they got that narrowed down to two top choices?
yes, their two top choices are, one is repair of the tunnel, and making that, restoring the capacity to 550 CFS. And then their other top choice is to install a pressure pipe, do minor rehabilitation of the tunnel and start building an overflow channel to reconnect the North Fork Toutle to the Spirit Lake. But the main outfall would be the new pressurized tunnel. So those are their two top choices. And I love the sentence in here that they wrote after their alternatives analysis. Based on the effects of the alternatives, the responsible official will decide which primary and redundant outflow measures, along with the means of a permanent access to outflow infrastructure, to construct. So basically, they say, here are our top two choices. Here's our environmental review of it, and the responsible official will pick whichever one of those two that they decide is best. So they don't have, this is the one we're choosing that I have found in here yet.
Did they do any seismic stuff? Cause there was some talk of that
They did not,
yesterday.
yeah, there's not a whole lot of concentration on the seismic. The pressure pipe, because it is a steel pipe, is more resistant than the tunnel itself to the seismic. And the natural channel obviously would be more resistant because it's a little bit more what Mother Nature would have.
Isn't the blockage in that right now? People are a little bit leery about getting in there and getting that out of there because it's
Yes.
because of the activity that's been around there.
Yeah, there's a shear zone in there that is what keeps moving around in that spot. They've repaired it before, and when they did, it became restricted, and now it's even worse.
Hasn't it created an alternate route? So the water is now coming out a different spot on the dam?
So the pressure pipe will come out the same location as the tunnel, and their natural channel would come out in a different route and tie into the headwaters of the North Fork Toutle. So they would have two outfalls essentially from it in two different locations.
And ultimately, who makes that decision?
The Forest Service, and probably in conjunction with the Corps. Because the way this is working, the Forest Service owns it. The Corps is the one that will be doing the construction, but it's the Forest Service's property, which has never made a sense to a lot of people because it was constructed by the Corps, but the Forest Service owns it, and it's maintained by the Corps, but it's still a Forest Service budget item.
What's the diameter of that tunnel? Do you know? And how much is that shear zone shifted already?
So the tunnel is 8,460 feet long, and it's 11-foot diameter. Let me see, I didn't write down in my short notes how much it shifted. I think I highlighted it in the text. Well, let's see. Good rock, bad rock. So the current maximum outflow is 400 CFS. I'm still looking for, I can't find it quickly. I
Okay,
can
no
find it for
worries.
you.
In answer to your question, how much do we want you to do? It sounds to me like at some point in time, we'll have to make a decision as to whether they're going to fight for this one or we're going to fight for that one. So my ask to you would be, when it comes to that point, you'd have the information to say, hey, I think it's best to fight for this pressurized one, this is why, or it's best to fight for this one, this is why.
Yeah.
If that helps at all.
That does help. If we want, do you want a comment letter on this EIS, draft EIS, because they're due the end of October. So we have a month for me to get a good information and get you guys some background.
Susan, who do you work with to gather this information to help us get this stuff done?
Well, me. I can reach out to the Corps. Now that Patrick's back, he has a lot of the background information on Mount St. Helens. Also, it's really the two of us that have worked on Mount St. Helens.
Who's the deciding authority?
On this, I'm,
Between those two options, who's the deciding authority that you're in?
this would be, oh, for who would make the decision on the recommendation to bring to you?
No, on which one they're gonna
Which
use.
is, okay, so that would be the USDA, which would ultimately be Congress, would be my guess based on their recommendation, because Congress will have to fund it.
So anything between here and there is just a recommendation.
Yes,
Because you're gonna look at the price tag and say, which one is cheapest?
potentially, yes.
I've heard neither one's gonna be cheap. but,
Yeah.
No,
no,
Okay, one's gonna be less expensive.
Yeah, there we go. Glass half full answer.
Mhm.
Yeah, but just listening on Tuesday, our whole thing was we need to start being vocal and putting out there. So I think if you can help us get direction, which one makes the most sense, then
Okay.
we need to fight that way. And I'm not opposed to a letter either to let them know that we're staying engaged. I mean, that's at least what I heard on Tuesday.
Sounds good. And then my other question is, the next meeting, did you guys want any additional background on Mount St. Helens before you have another public meeting? Anything you want me to bring for the public? So we, just let me know and I'll be happy to get that stuff together for
I
you
think the Forest Service should be able to talk about
about
I-
this.
I
Yes.
know this is the first I've heard they've actually come to a conclusion. I knew they had stuff out there, but I didn't know they'd come to a conclusion.
Yes.
I would ask them about it Tuesday if I didn't know.
I think just a general overview, at least a couple of times a month, but at least a general overview occasionally would be great.
Okay.
Do you happen to know off the top of your head how much water is in that lake? Is there a guesstimate, like it's so deep by so many feet wide and long and
How
it's
many acre
cubic feet of water, whatever it is?
What would they,
So it's about 100 feet deep and 3.5 square miles is the surface area. So I don't have a computer and I'm not
they had
doing,
to do a calculation if they're telling us we'd be 14 feet under, right? There has,
Yes.
number has to be somewhere.
Somewhere, that's what.
so I could calculate it based off of a 100-foot depth and the 3.5 mile surface area and get you a rough number.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, they said it raised, oh, I didn't write that down, how much it raised by, it's in here what the original surface area was and how much the bottom of the reservoir was raised when during the eruption.
Well, and every winter we have, it's gonna continue to go up if we don't have a way for that water to get out of there.
Yes. And they have a maximum safe level, which is when they start to panic.
Yeah. That'd be interesting, you know, how much it raised, because beforehand it was probably set and it had a good base and
Mhm.
and a good basin it sit in. And if it raised 75 feet, then you know that's ash barrier versus a good barrier. I'd be kind of just out of curiosity to know what that is.
And you've got to think that, once that is done, whatever decision is made, and we put more water into the Toutle, that's gonna affect what's happening at the SRS, as more water now comes down to that
Yeah.
point.
I did find your opening statement about how much we want you to dive into the tunnel.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's the engineers we like to, we're a very punny office.
That was a great discussion yesterday and I gotta say, just from, I know Army Corps believes in raising the SRS. And the reason for that is they believe that if they can trap more, that the river has a natural, ability to remove some of that silt and stuff. And so they believe raising the SRS will help it downstream because it'll naturally remove. Now, I don't know about that, but that's what they believe. So,
Yeah. Okay, I don't understand that logic.
yeah.
What I believe is that we need a whole river system study to tell us what we really need to do and what the Corps' motion going forward needs to be.
Oh. And I don't disagree with that, but I'd have a dredge in there while you're doing the study. Because the study will take a while.
Yes, it does. And I know, studies always take a while, and sometimes I cringe when I hear the word study because it's just something else to put on your
Yeah.
shelf, but it hasn't been looked at since the 80s on the whole, how the system's functioning and
Yeah.
how we should be. Right now, I think we take too many spot views because the Corps looks at the levees. The conservation district fixes the erosion here, but we don't look at where it is on the whole thing. So I think we need a more system-wide view and then be able to start making our projects. Yes, you can put your dredge in while we're getting our system-wide view
Yeah.
because it will come back. But I think that's an important thing that should be moved
I
forward.
think that's the main issue that we have right now is what you just said, that hasn't been evaluated since the 80s. So the Corps is making a decision on raising that SRS based on information and how it was done back in the 80s, not on what's going on today,
Yeah.
not on what's taking place today.
I
And that's
shudder.
where I see the problem.
I shudder to think how much money's been spent on studies in the last 45 years. And Mother Nature says all that crap belongs at the beach.
Mhm.
That's where it's trying to get to.
Yep.
And
Can we dye it white? We could make a killing off of it.
no kidding, if you make that white sand,
I know
oh
it.
my God.
But in that river, in my opinion, is a temperamental toddler. Still does not know what she wants to do because geologically she's new. She's 40 years old, which in geologic time is nothing. So she still doesn't know where she really wants to be flowing. She's trying to figure it out.
And that river naturally wants to get rid of that sediment, like you just said.
Mhm.
And the SRS is not allowing it to do that.
If you could flash forward 130 years and that got back to the riverbed, pretty sure it'd be right back in the original riverbed that was there, because that's where your Hard Rock riverbed is. It carved it out over eons, but it was 130 years since the last time Mount St. Helens erupted, and it cleaned it out before we got there to mess it up or whatever, however we did this. But when Mother Nature set that thing off and put all that stuff back in that valley, it's trying to get downstream. It's trying to wash it out. And every winter, we're gonna see more and more of that stuff coming down. And I don't think raising the sediment retention dam is gonna do anything except give us another delay of problems that we're not fixing for another 15 years.
And somebody else will be sitting up here talking about it.
Yeah,
And I don't think we're opposed to fixing it. They just won't let us fix it.
Yeah.
yeah.
You know? I mean, that's the thing. We're not sitting here, hey, we don't want to fix.
Yeah.
We're going, yeah, we want to fix. You just won't let us do what we think it needs to be done.
Well, and I look at the whole situation as, we're not working with Mother Nature, we're trying to obstruct it by doing what we're doing. Working with Mother Nature would be installing those log jams, dredging, taking the sediment out because it's trying to get rid of it anyway, but we can help by taking the sediment out, and that would be helping us. But that goes back to, we're going based off of 40-year-old data. We're not, nothing's upgraded to what the current situation is. Dredging has to be a part of it, though.
Yeah. Anyway. It was a good discussion yesterday. It was fun to do.
Sorry, I missed it.
You guys had a good turnout.
Weren't passed out on the sidewalk somewhere.
I know it because the commissioner said you were good. You feel like you got some direction?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So we're probably running past time, but I think finance is ready for budget time.
Are you the first part?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Well, I can't. Approved.